The Galactic Council chamber was a massive structure that floated in space around the neutral world of Nexus Prime. Inside, representatives from 47 different species gathered in a circular hall that stretched nearly a kilometer wide. The ceiling showed the stars above, and the floor was made of transparent material that revealed the planet below. It was designed to remind everyone that they were all small parts of something larger. Ambassador Jakara of the Vrin hegemony stood at the central podium. His species looked like tall, muscular reptiles with dark red scales and bright yellow eyes. He was angry, and everyone in the chamber could see it. His tail swished back and forth as he spoke, a sign of aggression among his people. For the third time this year, Jakara announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. We bring complaints against the human delegation. They have established military stations in the outer spiral without proper council approval. They have expanded their fleet beyond the limits agreed upon in the Treaty of New Beginnings. They have refused our inspections of their facilities. The other delegates listened with varying degrees of interest. Some species had their own complaints about humanity. Others were friendly with the humans and thought Jakara was exaggerating. A few simply did not care about disputes in distant parts of the galaxy. High Arbiter Moltek sat on the raised platform that overlooked the entire chamber. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His body resembled a large beetle with a dark shell that gleamed under the lights. His compound eyes could see in multiple directions at once, and very little escaped his notice. The human delegation will now respond to these accusations, Moltek said. His voice was calm and measured, as it always was. All eyes turned to the human section of the chamber. The human delegates sat in their assigned area, wearing plain gray uniforms instead of their usual formal diplomatic clothing. This was unusual. Humans typically dressed well for council meetings. They liked to make good impressions. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood up. She was a woman in her mid-50s with short black hair starting to show gray. Her face showed no emotion as she walked to the podium. She had served in Earth's military before becoming a diplomat, and she carried herself with the posture of a soldier. The chamber grew quiet. Everyone waited for her response. Humans were known for their long speeches. They loved to argue and defend themselves. Some species found it entertaining. Others found it exhausting. Sarah Chen reached the podium. She pulled a small data chip from her pocket and placed it carefully on the podium's surface. The chip was standard galactic format, the kind anyone could read with basic technology. Then she turned around and walked back to her seat. She sat down and folded her hands in her lap. She said nothing. The silence lasted for several seconds. Then the chamber erupted. What is the meaning of this? Jakara demanded. Is this some kind of human joke? Moltek raised one of his limbs, calling for order. Ambassador Chen, you are required to respond to the accusations. This is council law. Sarah Chen did not stand. She did not speak. She simply sat there looking straight ahead. One of the other human delegates, a young man with nervous eyes, looked like he wanted to say something. Sarah placed her hand on his arm, stopping him. The message was clear. No one from Earth would speak today. Moltek's antennae twitched. In all his centuries of service, he had never seen anything like this. Very well, he said slowly. We will examine the data chip provided by the human delegation. A technical assistant retrieved the chip and loaded it into the chamber's main display system. Holographic screens appeared in the air above the podium, visible to everyone present. The file was large. It contained recordings, documents, transaction records, and communication logs spanning 50 years. Everything was labeled and organized with precise detail. The first document showed a trade agreement between humanity and the Karathi Consortium. The original terms were displayed on one side. On the other side were the actual terms enforced by the Karathi, which were significantly less favorable to humanity. The difference cost Earth billions of credits each year. The second document showed diplomatic communications between the Vrin hegemony and humanity. The Vrin had promised military cooperation in a border dispute. The file then showed the Vrin secretly supporting humanity's opponents while maintaining friendly relations with Earth. The third document detailed a council vote from 20 years ago. Several species had publicly voted to support human interests. The file revealed they had been bribed by humanity's opponents to vote that way. On and on it went. Every slight, every broken promise, every manipulation, every betrayal, all documented with perfect accuracy. No accusations written by humans. No angry words. Just pure, undeniable data. The chamber became very quiet as delegates reviewed the information. Many species saw their own actions displayed for everyone to witness. Some looked embarrassed. Others looked angry at being exposed. A few looked worried about what this meant. Jakara's yellow eyes narrowed as he read through the documents related to his people. His tail had stopped swishing. "This proves nothing," he said, but his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "All diplomatic relationships have disagreements." Maltek studied the data carefully. His compound eyes moved across multiple screens at once. "This is quite comprehensive," he said. "Ambassador Chen, surely you have some comment on this material." Sarah Chen remained silent. She did not even look at Maltek. Her face showed nothing. "This is an insult to the Council," another delegate shouted. It was Ambassador Korval of the Pelian Unity, a bird-like creature with bright blue feathers. His species had several unflattering entries in the human data. "They accuse us without the courage to speak." "They are not accusing anyone," said Ambassador Talara of the Zendari Collective. Her species was small and gray with large black eyes. The Zendari were known for being neutral in most disputes. "They are simply providing information. See, no demands, no request for justice, just data." "Then what do they want?" Korval demanded. Talara looked at the silent human delegation. "That is what worries me." Maltek made a decision. "The Council will adjourn for today. All members should review this information carefully. We will reconvene in 7 days to discuss the accusations against humanity and their response." The delegates began to leave the chamber. Many tried to approach the human delegation. The humans stood up together, moved in a tight group, and left through their private exit. They did not speak to anyone. They did not answer questions. They simply left. Over the following days, other species tried to contact humanity through various channels. They sent diplomatic messages. They tried to arrange private meetings. They used trading partners as intermediaries. They even tried social contacts with human civilians on various worlds. Every attempt received the same response. It was a short automated message that said, "Humanity is currently observing a period of reflection. We appreciate your patience, nothing more." No explanation, no timeline, no hint about when they would speak again. The galactic news networks could talk about nothing else. What were the humans doing? Why had they gone silent? Was this a negotiating tactic? Were they preparing to leave the Council? Was something wrong on Earth? No one knew, and humanity was not saying anything. In the shadows between the questions, something else began to happen. Species that had dealings with humanity started quietly reviewing their own records. They checked their treaties. They examined their agreements. They looked at their past actions with new eyes. Some of what they found made them uncomfortable. On Earth, in the Strategic Command Center deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Sarah Chen stood before a room full of military and political leaders. They watched screens showing the reactions from across the galaxy. "They are confused," said one of the generals. "Good. Confusion is only the first stage," Sarah replied. "Now we wait." "And if they attack?" asked another leader. Sarah Chen's expression did not change. "Then they will learn why we stopped talking." The room fell silent. Outside the command center, the rest of humanity went about their daily lives. They worked. They learned. They loved. They lived, but they did not speak to the galaxy. And in that silence, the galaxy began to feel something it had not felt about humanity before. Fear. 2 weeks had passed since humanity's silence began, and the galaxy was starting to fracture. General Kravos stood on the bridge of the Vryn flagship, the Crimson Dawn. He was taller than most of his species, with darker scales and scars from many battles. He believed in strength above all else. Diplomacy, in his view, was just another word for weakness. "They run because they cannot fight," he told his officers. The bridge crew listened carefully. Kravos had the support of many in the Vryn military, though not everyone agreed with his aggressive approach. "The humans show their true nature. They are cowards hiding behind data files." His tactical officer was less certain. "General, perhaps we should wait for the Council's decision. The High Command has not authorized military action." Kravos's tail slammed against the floor. "The High Command moves too slowly. While they debate, humans fortify their positions. We must act now while they are weak." He gave the order. The Vryn fleet moved toward human territory in the outer spiral. 3 mining stations operated by human corporations were in their path. These stations were small but valuable, extracting rare minerals from asteroid fields. The Vryn expected resistance. They prepared for battle, but as their ships approached, the human vessels simply left. They did not fire a single shot. They loaded their personnel onto transport ships and departed, see? Kravos said triumphantly. They abandoned their own stations rather than fight. The Vryn occupied the 3 stations without any conflict. It seemed like a great victory. Kravos broadcast messages throughout the hegemony, claiming he had proven human weakness. But when his engineers examined the stations, they found something strange. Everything was gone. Not just the people and their personal belongings, everything. The mining equipment had been removed. The computer systems were missing. The power generators had been taken apart and carried away. Even the basic structural components had been stripped. What remained were empty metal shells floating in space. The stations were worthless. How did they do this so quickly? One engineer asked. It would take weeks to dismantle a station this completely. No one had an answer. The humans had somehow removed everything of value in less than 2 days. The Vryn were left occupying empty buildings in space. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Karathi Trade Consortium was facing a different problem. The Karathi were insect-like beings who had built their civilization on commerce. They traded with nearly every species in the galaxy. Their economy was vast and complex, with connections to thousands of worlds. Chairman Velkath discovered the problem when reviewing quarterly reports. "Where are the human contracts?" he asked his assistants. "They have withdrawn, Chairman," came the response. "All of them." Velkath felt something cold in his stomach. "How many?" 67 major trade agreements. The humans terminated them all within the last week. They cited the standard termination clauses. Everything was done legally. The chairman pulled up the details. The humans had been careful. They had not broken any laws. They had simply chosen to stop trading. But the effect was devastating. Human medical technology was considered the best in the galaxy. Human computers were faster and more reliable than most alternatives. Human agricultural products fed billions on worlds with difficult climates. Human entertainment was wildly popular among many species. All of it was suddenly unavailable. Within days, prices began to rise. Companies that depended on human goods scrambled to find alternatives. The Karathi stock exchanges showed declining values across multiple sectors. The consortium's carefully balanced economy was becoming unstable. Velkath tried to contact Earth. He offered better terms. He suggested new agreements. He even apologized for past misunderstandings, though he did not specify which ones. The response was the same automated message. Humanity is currently observing a period of reflection. On the planet Kelsor 4, a research station sent out a distress signal. Pirates had attacked, hoping to steal valuable equipment. The station was independent, not owned by any particular species. It had no military protection. The station's director sent emergency calls to anyone who might help. The nearest Karathi patrol was 6 hours away. The nearest Vryn ship was even farther. The station had maybe 1 hour before the pirates broke through their shields. A human ship appeared 30 minutes later. The ship was a frigate-class vessel, smaller than a military cruiser but heavily armed. It bore the markings of Earth's defense fleet. It did not send any communication to the station. It simply attacked the pirates. The battle was short and brutal. The human ship moved with precision that seemed impossible. It destroyed 3 pirate vessels in less than 5 minutes. The remaining pirates tried to flee. The human ship let them go. Then it rescued the research station's personnel, transferring them to safety on a nearby inhabited world. The humans provided medical care for the injured. They offered supplies and temporary shelter, and then they left. They did not ask for thanks. They did not answer questions about why they were in that area of space. They did not explain where they had come from or where they were going. The entire rescue was recorded by the station's sensors. Multiple species analyzed the recordings. The weapons the human ship used did not match any known human technology from previous records. The ship's speed and maneuverability exceeded their known capabilities. The precision of their targeting suggested advanced artificial intelligence far beyond what humans had previously demonstrated. When had they developed this technology? How long had they possessed it? What else were they hiding? Ambassador Talara of the Zendari Collective called an emergency meeting with her intelligence advisors. Her species specialized in gathering information. They had contacts throughout the galaxy. "Tell me about human military development," she said. Her chief advisor, a younger Zendari named Rinko, displayed holographic reports. They have been purchasing raw materials for 5 years. Large quantities of titanium, platinum, and rare earth elements. At the time, we assumed it was for civilian infrastructure. And now? Now we believe they were building ships. Many ships, Talara's large eyes blinked slowly. How many is many? We cannot be certain. Our surveillance of human space is limited. They have always been secretive about their military. But based on material purchases and energy consumption data, possibly thousands. Thousands of ships? Talara felt genuine alarm. Where are they keeping them? That is the question everyone wants answered. Other species were asking the same question. Intelligence agencies across the galaxy began focusing on human space. They reviewed old data. They sent observation ships to monitor human worlds. They tried to locate shipyards and military bases. What they found was disturbing. The humans had been very clever. There were shipyards hidden in the Oort clouds of uninhabited systems, using ice and rock for camouflage. There were manufacturing facilities built inside large asteroids that looked natural from the outside. There were what appeared to be commercial satellites around human worlds, but closer examination suggested they might be weapon platforms. Everything had been labeled as civilian projects: mining operations, research stations, communication networks. But now, with humans remaining silent and refusing inspections, other species began to wonder what the real purpose of these facilities was. 3 more species quietly withdrew their complaints against humanity. They sent private messages to Earth asking to discuss matters diplomatically. They offered concessions and better trade terms. The automated response never changed. Humanity is currently observing a period of reflection. The Karathi Consortium, facing economic collapse, sent a secret delegation to Earth. They arrived at Earth's orbital station and requested an immediate meeting. This time they were not turned away. Ambassador Chen met them in a small plain conference room. She sat across from Velkath and his advisors. For 5 minutes no one spoke. The Karathi delegation waited, unsure what to do. Finally, Chen spoke. "You have something to say?" Velkath, desperate, laid out a new trade proposal. It offered humanity significantly better terms than before. Some of the profits would be split equally. Some trade barriers would be removed. Some monopolies the Karathi had maintained would be open to human competition. Chen listened without expression. When Velkath finished, she stood up. "We will consider your proposal," she said. Then she left the room. The Karathi delegation waited for 2 hours before being told the meeting was over. They returned to their ship with no agreement, no promises, and no understanding of what humanity wanted. Back in Vrin space, General Kravos was growing frustrated. His occupation of the mining stations had brought him no advantage. His superiors in the high command were questioning his actions. Some were calling for his removal. He made a decision that would change everything. He would not wait any longer. He would not debate in councils. He would strike at the heart of human power. He began preparing his fleet for an invasion of human core worlds. His tactical officer tried to warn him. "General, we do not know their full capabilities. Perhaps we should gather more information first." "Information," Kravos said with contempt. "The galaxy has become weak, always wanting more information before taking action. I will show them how the Vrin deal with threats." He assembled the largest military force the Vrin hegemony had mobilized in a century. 500 warships carrying thousands of soldiers. It was a fleet desi. The intelligence reports arrived on High Arbiter Moltek's desk at the same time they reached a dozen other species across the galaxy. What they contained made the old Arbiter's antennae go very still. Moltek had served the Galactic Council for 300 years. He had seen wars and peace treaties. He had watched species rise and fall. He thought very little could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. The reports came from multiple independent intelligence agencies. The Zendari Collective, the Pelian Unity. Even the usually isolated merchant clans had contributed data. They had all been watching humanity, trying to understand the silence. What they discovered was not what anyone expected. For 5 years, while humanity had sat in council meetings and negotiated treaties and made trade agreements, they had been building. Not just building, transforming their entire military infrastructure. The first report showed satellite imagery of human space. Every major colony, every industrial world, every strategic location had been fortified. Defense platforms that had been classified as communication satellites were actually weapon systems. Mining operations in distant asteroid fields were actually shipyards. Research stations in deep space were actually forward military bases. The second report was more disturbing. It analyzed the human ships that had been seen recently, the frigate that had rescued the research station, the vessels that had withdrawn from the Vrin-occupied mining stations. Comparing them to older records of human military vessels revealed something shocking. They were completely different. The hull designs were new. The weapon signatures did not match previous human arms. The energy output was far higher. The speed and maneuverability exceeded what humanity had shown before. These were not upgrades to old ships. These were entirely new classes of vessels. How many of these new ships do they have? Moltec asked his intelligence advisor. The advisor, a young member of Moltec's species named Ralvin, looked uncomfortable. We estimate between 3,000 and 8,000 combat vessels. But that is based on incomplete data. The actual number could be higher. Moltec felt something he rarely experienced, genuine concern. And we never saw them being built? They built them slowly over several years, in hidden locations throughout their territory and in unclaimed space. They disguised the facilities as civilian operations. When we looked at individual pieces, nothing seemed unusual. Only when we assembled all the data did the pattern emerge. The third report was the most technical. It analyzed the technology humanity was now using. The conclusions were unsettling. Human weapons had advanced significantly. Their shields were stronger. Their engines were faster. Their computers were more sophisticated. Some of the technology appeared to be at least a decade ahead of what humanity had previously demonstrated. Did they develop all this themselves? Moltec asked. That is what troubles me, Ralvin replied. We have no records of major research breakthroughs. No published papers from human scientists about these advances. No visible testing of new systems. It is as if the technology simply appeared, Moltec thought carefully. Or they were working on it in secret for much longer than 5 years. Yes, High Arbiter. We believe humanity has been preparing for this moment for at least 2 decades, perhaps longer. The old Arbiter felt a chill. 20 years. That would mean humans had started their secret military buildup shortly after joining the Galactic Council. While they smiled and negotiated and accepted unfavorable treaties, they had been planning. He remembered something from Earth's history. Before contact with the galaxy, humans had nearly destroyed themselves several times. Nuclear weapons, biological warfare, environmental collapse. They had survived all of it by learning hard lessons. One of those lessons was about being prepared for the worst. Moltec pulled up historical records from Earth. He read about something humans called mutually assured destruction. It was a doctrine from their pre-contact era. The idea was simple. Build enough weapons that any enemy attack would result in total destruction of both sides. Make the cost of war so terrible that no one would dare start one. He found another human concept. A phrase from an old Earth leader. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Humans believed in diplomacy. But they also believed in having the power to defend themselves if diplomacy failed. They had tried diplomacy with the galaxy for 50 years. They had been taken advantage of, manipulated, and treated as junior members of the galactic community. Now they had built their big stick. The question was what they planned to do with it. On Earth, deep beneath the Swiss Alps, the Strategic Command Center monitored the Vrin fleet. 500 warships were crossing into human territory. General Kravos was making good on his threat. He was invading New Terra. Should we evacuate the colony? Asked General Martinez, head of Earth's military forces. Sarah Chen looked at the tactical displays. 2 billion people lived on New Terra. Evacuating them would be impossible. And unnecessary. No, she said. Begin stage 3. Across human space, silent signals went out. Ships that had been hiding in asteroid fields emerged. Space stations that looked like civilian habitats revealed weapon ports. The big stick that humanity had been building was finally being lifted, but not to strike. Not yet. In the Pelian Unity, Ambassador Korval received a message. It came through secure channels. encrypted with codes that only high-level intelligence officials used. The message contained a series of videos. The first video showed a human shipyard. Not one of the hidden facilities, but a major construction site in orbit around Mars. The date stamp was from 20 years ago. The video showed the construction of a massive vessel unlike anything humanity had publicly displayed. It was long and sleek, with unusual structures along its hull. The second video was from 15 years ago. It showed testing of a new weapon system in deep space. The weapon created a field of energy that disrupted electronics within a large radius. The test successfully disabled 20 target drones simultaneously. The third video was from 10 years ago. It showed a prototype ship using some kind of advanced drive system. The ship accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible with known human technology. There were dozens more videos, all classified, all secret, all proving that humanity had been working on advanced military technology for decades. The message included a simple text. We kept these secret because we hoped never to use them. We still hope that. It was not signed, but Korval knew it came from Earth. The humans were sending a warning, but not through official channels. They were showing select species what they were capable of, not as a threat, as information. The same messages went to other species, not to everyone, only to those who might listen, those who might be reasonable. The Vryn were not on that list. Ambassador Talara of the Zendari Collective received her copy of the videos. She watched them all carefully. Then she did something unusual for her cautious species. She called an emergency meeting with her government's leadership. We need to change our position on humanity immediately, she told them. They are not weak. They have never been weak. They have been patient. What is the difference? Asked one of the leaders. A weak species builds weapons when they feel threatened. A patient species builds weapons long before the threat appears, then waits to see if they need to use them. The Zendari government debated for several hours. Then they made a decision. They would publicly support humanity's right to defend itself. They would call for the Vryn to withdraw. It was a risky position, but Talara had convinced them it was the right one. Back in the Strategic Command Center, Sarah Chen received reports of the Zendari announcement. Then the Pelian Unity made a similar statement. Then 3 smaller species added their support. The galaxy is choosing sides, General Martinez observed. No, Chen corrected him. They are choosing survival. They finally understand that we are not asking for anything. We are simply showing them what we have always been capable of. On his flagship, General Kravos saw the news reports but dismissed them. Political cowards, he said. They fear to act while I take what the Vryn deserve. His fleet was 1 day from New Terra. Sensors showed human ships in the system, but fewer than he expected. Kravos smiled. The humans did not have enough forces to stop him. Prepare for battle, he ordered. Tomorrow we will show the galaxy that the Vryn are still the greatest military power in known space. His tactical officer studied the sensor readings with growing concern. General, something is unusual. The human ships are holding position near their colony. They are not moving to intercept us. Because they cannot stop us, Kravos replied. They will try to defend the planet directly. It is a poor strategy. But the tactical officer was not convinced. In his experience, humans did not make poor strategic decisions. They were calculating. Everything they did had a reason. If the humans were not running and they were not attacking, what were they doing? The answer would come tomorrow, when the Vryn fleet entered the New Terra system. And when it did, every species in the galaxy would learn what humanity had been building in silence. Not weapons of destruction, something far more terrifying. The Vryn fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Terra system. 500 warships appeared in normal space like a swarm of predators. On the flagship's bridge, General Kravos felt the satisfaction of a hunter about to claim his prey. Deploy into attack formation, he ordered. Begin scanning for human defenses. New Terra hung in space ahead of them, a blue and green world similar to Earth. Orbital stations ringed the planet. Cities dotted the surface. 2 billion human lives went about their daily routines below, unaware that a massive fleet had just arrived to invade their home. Or perhaps they were aware. Kravos had expected panic broadcasts, evacuation orders, frantic preparations. Instead, the planet seemed calm. Ships moved in normal traffic patterns. The orbital stations showed no signs of emergency protocols. Sensors detect human vessels, reported the tactical officer. 8 cruisers and 1 carrier group in orbit. 12 smaller patrol ships, Kravos laughed. 20 ships against our 500? Have they gone mad? The human ships maintained their positions. They did not move to intercept. They did not form defensive lines. They simply waited. Perhaps they hope we will spare them if they do not resist, suggested one of the bridge officers. Kravos considered this. It was possible. Maybe the humans finally understood they could not win. Maybe this show of force would end without battle. He could occupy the planet, claim victory, and prove that Vryn military might was still supreme. Send them a communication, he ordered. Demand their immediate surrender. Tell them we will allow their civilians to evacuate peacefully if they comply. The communication officer sent the message. They waited for a response. It came not from the human fleet but from the planet's surface. A single transmission, broadcast on all channels. Welcome to New Terra, said a calm human voice. Please maintain your current position. We will be with you shortly. Then the transmission ended. Kravos felt his tail twitch with irritation. What kind of response is that? Are they mocking us? Before anyone could answer, sensors began registering something unusual. A single ship was approaching from the inner system, from the direction of New Terra's star. It was moving fast, but not at combat speeds. It seemed relaxed, almost casual in its approach. Identification? Kravos demanded. Human vessel. Cruiser class. Designation reads as the Quiet Resolve. It is alone, a single ship. Kravos could not believe what he was seeing. The humans were sending one vessel against his entire fleet. It was either the bravest or the stupidest thing he had ever witnessed. The Quiet Resolve moved closer, passing through the formation of Vryn ships without any apparent concern. It did not raise shields. It did not power weapons. It simply flew steadily toward the center of the fleet. Should we fire, General? Asked the weapons officer. Kravos hesitated. Something felt wrong. Why would they send one ship? What possible purpose could it serve? Was it a distraction? Were human reinforcements coming from another direction? He checked the sensors. No other ships were approaching. The rest of the human fleet remained near the planet. Only this one vessel was moving. Hold fire, Kravos said. I want to see what they are doing. The Quiet Resolve reached the center of the Vryn formation and stopped. It positioned itself equidistant from the largest concentration of warships. Then it powered down its engines. It just floated there, surrounded by 500 enemy vessels. They have stopped moving, reported the tactical officer. They are making no hostile actions. Their weapons remain offline. Then what are they doing? Kravos demanded. The answer came a moment later. Every screen on the Crimson Dawn's bridge went black. Then they flickered back to life, showing a human woman. She was middle-aged, wearing a simple ship captain's uniform. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. I am Captain Williams of the Quiet Resolve, she said. You are in violation of human territorial space. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. Kravos stepped closer to the screen. You threaten me with one ship? You must be insane. I am not threatening you, Captain Williams replied. I am informing you of your options. You may leave now, or you may learn why humanity stopped talking to the galaxy. Kravos laughed. His officers joined him. The idea was absurd. One ship could not harm his fleet. Very well, Captain. Show me what one human ship can do. Captain Williams nodded slowly. As you wish. She made a simple gesture, pressing a control on her command chair. The Quiet Resolve came to life, but not in any way Kravos expected. The ship did not fire weapons. It did not launch missiles. It did not even raise shields. Instead, it began to glow. A soft blue light emanated from its hull, growing brighter with each passing second. What is that? Kravos asked. Some kind of self-destruct? If they think one explosion will harm us, they are fools. But the tactical officer was looking at his instruments with growing horror. General, our weapon systems are offline. What? All weapons. Across the entire fleet. They are not responding. It is as if they have been completely disabled. Kravos spun to face his weapons officer. Fix it, override the systems. I am trying, General. Nothing is working. The systems are there, but they will not activate. It is like something is preventing them from functioning. Other reports came flooding in from ships throughout the fleet. Weapons offline, targeting systems unresponsive, missile tubes locked, energy weapons refusing to power up. Every single offensive system in the Vryn fleet had stopped working. and the quiet resolve just floated there, glowing with that soft blue light. "How is this possible?" Kravos whispered. On the screen, Captain Williams spoke again. "Your weapons are not damaged. We have simply made them unable to function while our field is active. When we deactivate the field, your weapons will work normally again. This is a demonstration. A demonstration of what? Of restraint." For 6 hours, the quiet resolve circled the Vryn fleet like a predator around helpless prey. The blue field remained active. 500 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy drifted in space, unable to defend themselves, unable to attack, unable to do anything except watch. Kravos tried everything. He ordered his ships to ram the human vessel. Their engines would not respond with enough power. He ordered them to flee. The quiet resolve simply followed, keeping them within the field. He sent frantic messages to the High Command, but they were too far away to help. He was trapped. His entire fleet was trapped. By one ship, the reports went out across the galaxy instantly. Every species with sensors in that region detected what was happening. Intelligence agencies analyzed the data. Military leaders tried to understand the technology being used. The conclusion was terrifying. If humanity could disable weapons at will, every military in the galaxy was obsolete. Every fleet, every defense platform, every weapon system ever built could be rendered useless by this technology. The balance of power had not shifted. It had collapsed. On the 6th hour, the quiet resolve moved aside. The blue field faded. Systems throughout the Vryn fleet came back to life. Weapons powered up. Targeting systems responded. Everything functioned normally again. "You may leave now," Captain Williams said, "or you may try to attack us. The choice is yours. But understand this, we have shown you mercy. We will not show it again." Kravos stared at the screen. His pride wanted to order an attack. His survival instinct was screaming at him to run. For the first time in his military career, he felt genuine fear. "Withdraw," he said quietly. "General," his tactical officer asked, uncertain. "I said withdraw," Kravos roared. "Get us out of this system, now." The Vryn fleet turned and began moving away from New Terra. They did not use faster-than-light travel immediately. They moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid any sudden movement might trigger another demonstration. The human ships near the planet did not pursue. They simply watched the Vryn leave. The quiet resolve returned to orbit, its mission complete. Back in the Strategic Command Center on Earth, General Martinez turned to Sarah Chen. "The demonstration is complete. The galaxy knows what we can do." Chen nodded. "Then it is time to speak again." She stood and walked toward the communication center. The period of silence was ending. Humanity had made its point. Now it was time to establish the new rules. High Arbiter Moltec received the message 3 hours later. It was a formal request from the human delegation. They wished to address the Galactic Council. They were ready to speak. Moltec sat in his chambers for a long time after reading the message. He thought about the Vryn fleet, helpless before one human ship. He thought about the hidden shipyards and the decades of secret preparation. He thought about how easily humanity could have used that technology for conquest, but they had not. They had simply demonstrated it, then let their enemies leave. The old Arbiter finally understood. Humanity did not want war. They never had. They wanted respect. They wanted to be treated as equals. And they had built the power necessary to force the galaxy to give them that respect. But they were still willing to talk. Moltec sent his response immediately. The council would convene in 3 days. The galaxy would listen to what humanity had to say. This time everyone would pay attention. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same as it had 3 weeks ago, but the atmosphere was completely different. Every delegation sat in tense silence. The usual chatter and side conversations that happened before council sessions were absent. Everyone waited. High Arbiter Moltec observed the chamber from his raised platform. In all his centuries of service, he had never seen the council so quiet. Even the most arrogant species showed caution now. The Vryn delegation sat with their heads lowered. General Kravos was not present. He had been removed from his position by the Vryn High Command and sent into exile. The human delegation entered the chamber. Ambassador Sarah Chen led the way, wearing formal diplomatic attire again. The plain gray uniforms were gone. Her team moved to their positions with the same professional efficiency they had always shown. But something had changed. The way other delegates looked at them was different. There was respect now, and fear. Chen walked to the central podium. She stood there for a moment, looking at the assembled representatives. When she finally spoke, her voice carried clearly through the chamber. 3 weeks ago, we stopped speaking, she began. Many of you wondered why. Some thought we were weak. Others thought we were preparing for war. Both were wrong. We stopped speaking because words had lost their meaning. She paused, letting her statement settle over the chamber. For 50 years, humanity has been part of this council. For 50 years, we have tried to follow the rules, honor our agreements, and act as good members of the galactic community. For 50 years, we have been taken advantage of, manipulated, and treated as lesser beings. Ambassador Zakara of the Vryn shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Several other delegates looked down, avoiding eye contact. We provided data showing treaty violations, broken promises, and systematic discrimination. We did not do this to accuse anyone. We did it to show you who we had been dealing with, who we had been trusting. Chen's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. And then we stopped talking. We wanted to see what the galaxy would do without our voice in it. What we learned was not encouraging. Some of you saw our silence as weakness. Others saw it as an opportunity. A few understood it as a warning. We thank those few for their wisdom. Ambassador Talara of the Zendari Collective nodded slightly from her section of the chamber. We come from a world that almost destroyed itself, Chen continued. Before we joined the galactic community, Earth experienced terrible wars. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet. We came very close to using them. Some we did use, and we live with that shame. She walked slowly around the podium as she spoke, making eye contact with different delegates. But we learned from our mistakes. We learned that the most dangerous weapons are not the ones you use, but the ones you never need to use because everyone knows you have them. We learned that sometimes the best way to prevent war is to make the cost of war too terrible to imagine. We also learned something else. We learned that beings who have experienced the horror of war understand the value of peace better than those who have never faced such horror. We do not want war with the galaxy. We never have. But we will not accept being treated as servants or children. Chen stopped walking and faced the center of the chamber. So now we are speaking again, and here is what we have to say. She pulled out a data tablet and displayed its contents on the chamber's holographic screens. These are our new terms for participating in the Galactic Council. The first term appeared. Equal representation. Humanity will have full voting rights equal to any other species. Our observer status is ended. Multek nodded. This was reasonable. Several species had already been preparing to support this. The second term appeared. Independent security zones. Human territory will be under human jurisdiction. Council inspection teams will be permitted. But they will coordinate with Earth authorities and respect our sovereignty. This was more controversial, but given recent demonstrations, no one objected. The third term appeared. Mutual technology sharing. We will share our advances with the Council. In return, we expect equal access to technology developed by other species. No more favorable agreements for some species and not others. Ambassador Velkath of the Karathi Consortium looked uncomfortable. His species had maintained technology monopolies for decades. But he did not protest. The fourth term appeared. Trade agreements will be renegotiated on fair terms. Previous agreements that were disadvantageous to humanity are void. New agreements will be structured as equal partnerships. This would hurt several species economically, but again no one spoke against it. The fifth and final term appeared. Mandatory diplomatic training. All council members will participate in conflict, de-escalation programs hosted by Earth. We will teach what we learned from our own history so that others might avoid our mistakes. This last one surprised many in the chamber. The humans wanted to teach diplomacy. They had just demonstrated the most terrifying military technology in known history, and they wanted to focus on preventing conflict? These are our terms, Chen said. They are not negotiable. You may accept them, or humanity will withdraw from the council and pursue our own path among the stars. The chamber remained silent. Everyone understood what she was really saying. Accept the terms or face a galaxy where humanity operated independently, bound by no council laws, answerable to no galactic authority. Moltek spoke from his platform. The council will vote on these terms. Does any delegation wish to speak before the vote? For a moment, no one moved. Then Ambassador Talara stood. The Zendari Collective supports all 5 terms. Humanity has proven they seek peace, not conquest. They have shown restraint when they could have shown destruction. We should welcome them as true equals. One by one, other delegations stood. The Pelian Unity, the Merchant Clans. Even the Karathi Consortium, despite their economic concerns, voted in favor. Within 10 minutes, 45 of the 47 council members had voted yes. Only the Vryn hesitated. Ambassador Jakara looked at his delegation, then at the human section. Finally, he stood. The Vryn hegemony accepts these terms. We recognize that we have treated humanity poorly. We hope to rebuild trust. It was as close to an apology as the proud Vryn would ever give. Chen nodded, acknowledging it. Then it is unanimous, Maltek declared. The terms are accepted. Humanity is granted full council membership with equal status. Welcome truly to the galactic community. There was no applause. This was too serious a moment for celebration. But there was a sense of something shifting, of the galaxy moving into a new era. After the official session ended, Moltek requested a private meeting with Ambassador Chen. They met in his chambers, a quiet space filled with artifacts from his long career. I must ask you something, Moltek said. The weapon you demonstrated at New Terra, the device that disabled the Vryn fleet. Would you have actually used more aggressive force if they had not withdrawn? Chen looked at the old arbiter for a long moment. That is a question I hope you never learn the answer to. That is not an answer. No, Chen agreed. It is not. But it is the only answer I can give you. The truth is, High Arbiter, we do not know ourselves. We built our weapons hoping never to use them. We demonstrated restraint because we wanted to prove we are not a threat. But if forced to defend ourselves, to defend our people, our worlds, she paused, we would do what we had to do. And we have the ability to do terrible things. Moltek's antennae twitched. You are saying the galaxy should remain uncertain about your true capabilities. I am saying that uncertainty prevents conflicts better than any amount of certainty. If everyone knows exactly what you will and will not do, they can plan around it. If they do not know, they must assume the worst. And assumption creates caution. Caution creates hesitation. Hesitation creates time for diplomacy. You weaponized ambiguity, Moltek said slowly. We learned from history that the deadliest weapon is often the one that never fires, because the fear of what it might do prevents anyone from forcing you to use it. The High Arbiter sat back, his ancient body settling into the chair. You are a dangerous species, Ambassador Chen. Yes, she agreed simply. But we are a dangerous species that prefers peace. That is what makes us different. We know the cost of war because we have paid it. We have buried our dead and rebuilt our cities and lived with the shame of what we did to ourselves. We do not want to inflict that on others. She stood to leave, then turned back. That is why we stopped talking, High Arbiter. Not to prepare for war, but to remind the galaxy that our participation in the Council was a choice, not an obligation. We could have left at any time. We could have isolated ourselves and let the galaxy sort out its own problems. But we chose to stay because we believe in what the Council represents. We just needed to be treated like we belonged here. 6 months later, the galaxy had settled into a new normal. Trade routes were renegotiated. Defense agreements were restructured. The first diplomatic training program hosted by Earth had begun, with representatives from 20 species learning human techniques for conflict resolution. The Vryn hegemony underwent significant political changes. General Kravos's failed invasion had discredited the aggressive military faction. More diplomatic voices now controlled the government.